with Rental Household, and we are a full service property management company that's here to help you answer all of the questions that you didn't know you had about the Metro Detroit real estate market.
Okay, let's go.
One of the first questions that we get from our investors is Section 8. Is Section 8 good for my portfolio, and what can I expect? There's a lot of good videos out there about Section 8 that's going to tell you all of the great things, and I highly recommend going to watch those videos because it's going to highlight all of the reasons why you should do Section 8. However, this video is going to focus more on the underbelly of Section 8. There is an underbelly of Section 8 that you are going to want to be aware of, and it doesn't necessarily mean that Section 8 isn't a good fit for your portfolio. You're just going to want to be well aware of some of the things that you're going to run into and what you need to expect while having a Section 8 voucher holder in your property. When it comes to Section 8, the biggest thing that you need to understand is that you are purchasing the consistency that comes with the payments from Section 8. Section 8 mandates that you have to do an inspection every year, and so they're going to send an inspector out. You're going to get a list of items that you need to repair. They're going to re-inspect and ideally pass you until they do it the next year. Problem is, when you get that inspection, you're going to have things that are on it. And the things that are on it come with an expense. You have to pay somebody to come out and fix those things, and then also pay for the materials that coincide with the repair. If it's something that you've already fixed on last year's inspection, there's what poses a problem. You are now spending money that you weren't going to spend otherwise. Now that you're paying for something that you wouldn't have otherwise, that means that your Section 8 voucher holder just got a little bit more expensive than your cash tenant. And you might be thinking to yourself, but don't Section 8 tenants take better care of their homes because of the fear of losing their voucher? And yeah, that's true in one sense, but Section 8 also needs to hold the tenant accountable when it comes to those inspections in order to make them feel like they could potentially lose their voucher. And unfortunately, at least not in the Detroit market, they don't necessarily hold the tenant accountable for repairs that seem to come in consistently year over year, and instead force the owner to take care of those repairs, regardless of tenant negligence or not. And unfortunately, once this practice continues with Section 8 and seasoned voucher holders, it becomes an understood practice that there's no accountability held with the tenant when it comes to repairs that are consistently happening on your property. So the only recourse you have at that time is to determine that you don't want to renew that tenant, in which case Section 8 does have to move them, or whatever they do in regards to change up of the voucher if there is any. It is your choice to not renew them. You do need to keep in mind that move out comes with time, and it will take time to get the tenant processed for a move out into another property. The additional problem is that now Section 8 is not holding the tenant accountable. They're just moving them into another property instead of threatening them for voucher removal. You have to be careful because this means, as somebody that's going to accept voucher holders into your vacant property, you now need to be careful and make sure that you're not taking a tenant that is moving from another property under a non-renewal as a result of excessive repair. This, of course, leads you to the vetting process of your Section 8 tenant. There's a lot of investors that skip over the vetting process when it comes to an applicant because they see it's a Section 8 voucher holder. That's the exact opposite of what you need to be doing when you see a Section 8 voucher holder, considering the information that I just gave you. You want to do extra screening. One of the things that is best to implement when it comes to Section 8 applicants is walking their current place of residence before you final approve the application for your property. This will help you alleviate those lengthy inspection lists. You need to make sure that they are not going to create lengthy inspection lists for you during their tenancy. You want a successful tenancy. That's the goal of finding the tenant for the property. And so doing the walkthrough for your Section 8 tenant in particular is paramount to making sure you're not spending excessively. Of course, it's nothing's foolproof. You do everything that you can and you walk the property and everything looks great. Maybe they just cleaned up everything before your walkthrough. There are some indicators you are going to want to look for different things as you're doing your walkthrough just to see. But those are things that we can talk about in another video. But you do want to do a walkthrough and really be diligent with your screening process to ensure that you're not going to have lengthy inspection lists, because that can kill your ROI that you were intending to make on this. And when you do your final walkthrough and you determine that this prospect applicant is going to be a good fit for your portfolio, that's when the paperwork comes into play. This is when the FMR comes into question. FMR is fair market value. This is what Section 8 says they're going to give to you for your unit. There's a lot of videos out there from other mentors, coaches, investors that pull up the FMR from Detroit or wherever they are and use that number as setting the rents. This is absolutely inaccurate and will cause a problem for the ROI that you're trying to yield on your property. A lot of times what Section 8 is going to do is they will rent negotiate you down. In order to hit your FMR, you have to have two things. One, comps. You need to have comparable properties renting at that price in your area in order for them to give you. FMR is up to that dollar amount, not we are giving you that dollar amount. The second thing is tenant income. If you have several comps in your area for what they list as FMR, but the tenant income does not suffice with how they run the parameters, they are going to rent negotiate you down. At that point, you can either decide to take it or you can decide to leave it. But you have spent now time. You've fully vetted this tenant, you've walked their current place of residence, and now you've done all the paperwork. That is time taken away from your vacancy, turning into an occupied cash flow. This is all a result of Section 8. Of course, the things that I list in this video haven't happened to everybody that are taking Section 8, and you can have the most positive experience where they do give you the FMR, you did hit the comps, you did have tenant income that sufficed, and you got a really good tenant. You did a walkthrough and everything was great, no damage to their current property, and they currently aren't experiencing any damage to yours, and you're getting inspection lists that don't have very many things on it, and that can happen. And if you do it right and play your cards right, you can set yourself up well for having that. But we go through all of the red flag items prior to allowing your tenant to move in, because you really never know what could happen when you're placing tenants into your rental holding in Metro Detroit.
Okay, let's go.
Well, I hope you guys learned a little bit more about Section 8 Underbelly and how it may affect you and become more well-rounded investor as you look for your acquisitions. Of course, like this video and subscribe if you want to see more of these videos so that we can help you answer any of the questions you didn't necessarily know that you had.